Sarasota, Florida. I'm Elliot Trotter here for Sky Magazine with our open reporters Tyler Kinley, Ian Toner, and Zach Smith. Guys, first round of play just happened for day 2. We've got power pools and lower pools. What happened in this first round?
Well, I was watching the GOAT Ring of Fire game. Very, very important game. GOAT came out fired up. They were, I expected them to be able to handle the wind and the rain, being from the Northeast, very well. They came out, they took a 3-1 lead, and there was actually a bit of a momentum changer. Anatoly Vasilyev was cutting up line, and Ward, I think Dave Ward, or is Dave Ward on Ring of Fire?
Thomas Ward, excuse me.
Thomas Ward trying to make some play on the disc. Tully catches it. Thomas Ward hits him, gets a PMF for it, takes Tully out of the play, and I don't know if that got in GOAT's head, the level of physicality got into GOAT's head, but they turned it over, and then Ring went on a 3 or 4 break run. Matt Bode made a monster layout D. They huck it right to him after he catches it, and he gets a huge sky. They take a 7-4 lead, eventually 8-5 halftime lead. They trade out of half. GOAT would tie it at 13s, and then Ring of Fire would eventually win 15-13. It was an incredibly exciting game. And one thing that I noticed, Ring of Fire was really opening up their lines. They had 2 separate D lines. I spoke to one of their captains at the end of the game. They played 25 people that game. They spread out play time. Everyone was playing except for the captain and Ken Porter, who's out with the shoulder injury. But GOAT had been playing, their primary offensive line, their primary defensive line. A lot of their guys didn't see a lot of play time, so I'm very curious to see how they're going to handle their game against Machine. If they're tired, if they lose that game against Machine, they're going to have to play in pre-quarters at the end of the day, possibly against a team that's going to be up on the rise from winning the lower pools.
Right. Ian, what have you been watching?
I hung out most of the first round at the truck stop double wide game. Double wide got a number of early breaks, going up 4-1. Truck stop's offense again just kind of had situations where it didn't look comfortable. Some miscommunications on swings, some drop swings, which were. Yes, there are slightly inclement conditions with a little bit of breeze and a little bit of wind, and a little bit of rain, but it's that time of year where you have to be making the catches on easy swings, on easy in cuts, and those drops gave double wide some break opportunities that they capitalized on. One thing I noticed double wide did different offensively in this game as opposed to other games is they went to the deep ball far more than they did against Chain. And Jake Anderson, who just came here today, is doing a phenomenal job cutting deep for Brody and Kurt, so watch out for him. The other thing to say is that Jared Wolf is still wrapped up in an ice bandage and in sneakers. Doesn't look like he's going to be able to play, but double wide's O-line still looked phenomenal without him. Just quick other notes about the lower pools. Oakland came out on top against Tanazi, 15-11. I talked to a couple players on Tanazi, and they said they had a number of break opportunities in the first half, just couldn't cash in on them, and Oakland closed out the game. Also talked to some players on Sub-Zero. Apparently Eric Johnson separated his AC joint in his shoulder yesterday, and that threw a huge crimp in Sub-Zero's O-line, and they've been kind of mixing and matching people and unable to find that perfect offensive combination. So Sub-Zero went down to Madison Club 15-12.
It sounds like there have been a couple injuries of notable players. Tyler, you've been to the club championships a lot as a player. Is this a time when players injure themselves, or does it seem like people are injuring themselves more so far this year?
Really, injuries are no surprise at this level. Everyone's playing at their absolute maximum, both offensively and defensively, which is going to create some injuries, whether they're collisions, whether they're flukes. It's really no surprise to see players get injured. They're just throwing their bodies around. There's nothing to lose at this point. And if you see a disc, at Labor Day, that's tough to get. You might not make that same play, but here, everyone's going to put themselves on the line, so it's really not much of a surprise to see injuries.
Okay, and what games were you watching this round?
I paid utmost attention to the Ironside Chain game. This was going to be a test of whether Chain can rebound from their 15-6 loss against Double Wide, and whether Ironside is a real title contender. The fact of the matter is, Ironside's legit. there's a few pieces I think right now to what makes a title contender. You got to have a good offense. It's got to be able to be consistently putting it in a number of dynamic ways against multiple defenses in different conditions. You got to have a strong D-line that can pressure the other team in a lot of different ways, and you have to have a defensive offense that can consistently put the ball in the end zone. That's been the difference maker between the Ironside and Chain game, where Ironside's defensive offense looks crisp, and it's a depth of guys who can not only play offense, very, very strong, but they got defensive players who can also play O. And we haven't seen that across the board. We have seen that from teams like Revolver. We have seen that from teams like Double Wide. And we are seeing that from Ironside. Chain's struggles were using the entire width of the field. That when they moved the disc laterally, their offense looked really good. They've got a great chemistry on their O-line with very experienced athletes, a lot of speed. But a lot of times they'd play a 60-yard impeccable game and then have just an unfortunate decision-based turnover right in that goal line. They had a number of those that I'm sure that they're just frustrated with themselves because it's a choice.
Right. Sounds like Labor Day.
Sounds like Labor Day. Their O struggled. I mean, not really. It didn't really struggle. They had a couple miscues. Dylan's flick. He had one flick that looked like it was affected by a wet disc potentially.
Yeah. How is weather playing a factor into games? It was raining. Drizzling to rain earlier today, and now it's a little bit windy, a little breezy, but cleared up for the most part.
I think it's going to make a big difference. Having a clear, hot day gives throwers free reign to hit wherever. Having even a slight wind, it does affect what kind of throws you can throw over a zone. And I think for a team like Double Wide that can put on a big four-man cup, that's a huge help in their game against Ironside that's coming up next.
So tell me more about what games are coming up next. Zach, what are you planning on watching? What games should people be aware of next round?
Well, in the power pools with the two there were two teams that were 1-0 going into power pools in each pool. So Goat loses, and so did Machine. Machine lost against Revolver in the pool. So Goat versus Machine, the loser of that game is going to have to play pre-quarters. And in Pool F, who is it? It's going to be Truck and Chain
Lightning.
And it's the exact same situation. So both those games should be, while the other two games in those pools, while Revolver and Ring and Double Wide Ironside are surely going to be exciting, they really don't play as much of a great role as those other sets of games, because those losers of those games have to play, everyone else has to play 2 games today in those power pools. Those guys will have to play a 3rd game, and they will have to play against a team that's up on the rise. The winners of the G and H pool, those 2 teams that win, they're going to be up on the up. They're going to be coming to pre-quarters hot, and they're going to be playing a team that's lost games. So those pre-quarters are going to be huge. So those 2 games, I'd say, are the most important games of this round.
I'd say so too. I think both teams know the history. That I think there's only one team, and fact checkers, you can tell me if I'm wrong, there's only been one team that's ever come from the pre-quarters to go on to win a championship. And so that road is you don't want to be on that road. I would agree.
I think another game to keep our eyes on would be Pool H. We're going to have Madison Club going up against Tanazi for what could be the Pool H championship and a spot in pre-quarters. I haven't been great with predictions, and it breaks my heart to root against Tyler Conger and some of the Tennessee guys, but I'm going to have to take Mac Club on this one.
All right, guys. Well, we've got another round of play, and we'll see you more in Sarasota. Tyler Kinley, Ian Toner, and Zach Smith are open correspondents for Sky Magazine.
Thanks, Elliot.
Thanks, Elliot.
Thanks, guys. And you'll be able to follow us on the stream at skymagazine.com as well as the live blog.